Hello everyone, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to this update, this road so far journey update with the progress on my deck, the Unicorn's Journey Tarot. This is the tarot that I am creating and that is being illustrated by the very talented Francesca Paocchi. I am so excited to get into this. This is so long overdue. As you might already know, if you've seen any updates on this deck so far, I am also rolling out art reveals first and foremost to newsletter subscribers. So I have a newsletter. You can find it at unicornsjourneytarot.com. And newsletter subscribers get updates with card reveals and art reveals before anybody else. So I put that there. Also, members of my Unicorn fam, that's the channel membership here, will sometimes get little babbly updates from me in the background if they are at the magical unicorn tier or up. That's where I might sometimes share some progress sketches or ask opinions about certain art decisions that we're making, that sort of thing. So if you want to be more involved in that way, that's the place to do that. But the other thing I do to keep you guys updated on card reveals or art reveals is I have been revealing those also on Instagram. So I want to keep you updated in all of the places, and these video updates are meant to give you sort of a just letting me babble, I guess. It's meant to be a place where I can babble and update you about where we're at this point as far as like mostly finalized cards in the deck. If you are brand new and you have no idea what I'm talking about and you're like, what's the Unicorn's Journey Tarot? I have two videos you can check out that came before this one here on the channel. The first one is a live stream I did announcing the project and doing my first initial reveals and talks about what the plan was and what the deck is all about. I will link that up in the cards there. I'm pretty sure it's going to be there. I'll link it up in the cards, and I'll also link it in the description down below so you can check out that live stream. And I also have my last Road So Far update number 1, which is the full reveal of all the artwork and my talking through it, going all the way up through the Lover's card. So today we're going to be covering from, well, you know, we're still going to go through the cards I've already covered because it is a road so far, and I want you to see where we're at. And then we're going to continue from the Chariot through the rest of the major arcana, which is very exciting for me. I've only been able to share this so far in writing, so this will be my first time really talking through these cards out loud, and I'm super stoked. So I'm going to share my slideshow screen thing with the artwork, and we're going to get right into it. But before we do that, I guess a quick synopsis. So the whole point of the Unicorn's Journey Tarot is to show a primary character, our main character, who's a unicorn named Mystic. Now, Mystic journeys the entire major arcana without a horn. I'm pointing to my head like I have a unicorn horn. The premise here is that the Fool's Journey, or the journey of the major arcana, is sort of Mystic's journey to find themselves, to figure out who they really are. And I wanted this to sort of mimic what we often go through in life when we're trying to figure out who we are. This concept is sort of loosely inspired by The Ugly Duckling, which was a story I grew up with and was really formative on me. But this idea that you maybe aren't fully aware of your own potential. And it's just so relatable as a self-worth journey. The Unicorn's Journey Tarot will have a strong self-worth theme, the entire thing being about following one character's journey through both the major arcana and then through each of the realms of the minor arcana for each of the 4 elements, and sort of learning lessons along the way, learning the tough stuff. And that, to me, is what tarot is all about. It teaches us about ourselves. It teaches us about how we engage with the world, and I get really excited about this kind of thing. So that's the general premise. The deck itself is going to have elemental minor arcana. I'm trying to think if there's anything else to add to this before we jump in. But yes, so Mystic sort of thinks they're a horse for a little while. That's the kind of part of the journey that you'll see in the major arcana. So without further ado, I'm going to jump us in and we'll start from the Fool. I'll go through the first 5 or 6 cards pretty quickly because we've covered those before, and then we're going to jump through the rest of the major arcana. So this is probably going to be a longish video, so make sure you have something cozy to snuggle up with or under, like a blanket. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Anyways, I get really scattered with this because it's very surreal to be making my own tarot deck, and I get very excited about it. So let's jump in. Okay, so let me share my screen and we will get into it. So Mystic's journey begins when they find themselves, we don't really know sort of the origin story. The idea here is that Mystic just begins in this forest as like a little baby unicorn. And so this is our Fool card, and it shows Mystic here with their little ladybug friend. I just love this image. This was the first image that Francesca did for me as a concept art before I brought her on as the illustrator for this project, and it just delighted me. So love the lighting in here. I love how this looks. I think this is great. I like that we have a reflection in the water, and there's like, it's kind of murky. uncertainty. Like there's this idea that Mystic doesn't know who they are yet. And that's, again, something I'm really passionate about the major arcana in the deck. This is the magician image, and we have the 4 elemental sort of symbols. We have a crystal for earth, we have fire for fire, a feather for air, and a little water droplet for water, just to give us that idea of the 4 elements sort of appearing over Mystic, sort of having this ethereal horn. So this horn is not actually attached. And I don't want to blow up this imagery too much. We're going to be seeing that obviously, of course, when we have the actual deck in hand. But I really wanted to show that while Mystic is here sleeping, this star above, as you'll notice is up in the upper left-hand corner of the card, is kind of connecting down to the potential, to what's happening on Earth. And that's a nod back to the as above, so below symbology of the magician. We also have the lilies and the roses here as a nod to the RWS symbol. And of course, we have that lemniscate. But the idea here is that as Mystic's asleep, this star is illuminating that horn as potential, but it's not on Mystic's head yet. It's kind of like, kind of there, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of like a ghostly image. And it's just to show that we have this potential within us, even when we're not aware that it's there. The high priestess here, I love this. We have the pomegranate tree, we have the dark and the light, the moon and the water. These are all really important symbols for me personally in a moon card. But what I really love here is the crescent moon shaped symbol on Mystic's forehead, showing sort of the awakening of Mystic's intuition and their third eye. I love that. I just, so good. Our Empress card, here we have Mystic sort of being nurtured by a doe in the forest that they are. And here I wanted the apples kind of as a symbol of bounty and abundance and being cared for in that sort of material way, being nurtured and safe. And there's also that heart-shaped symbol in the back with the Venus in the center to, again, nod to the RWS. Again, I'm a little scattered because every time I talk about this, it just feels so like I'm in a dream world. This doesn't feel real at all. But anyways, it's going to be real. We're getting there. Here is the Emperor. I freaking love this. There's a nod to a Western red cedar on this card because that is a tree that I personally am really drawn to and attracted to and feels like strength and Emperor energy to me. So we have the Western red cedar sort of visible on the left side of the card. The most important thing here is that Mystic is trying to explore and kind of maybe explore their surroundings a little bit. And the Emperor, who is represented by this stag, is kind of like guarding Mystic and protecting them from the dangerous cliff edge. And to me, this is a big part of the role of the Emperor, is this idea of being the protector and the guardian, and sometimes being the bad guy in order to hold that safe space for others. There's tough decisions made on the part of the Emperor. They bring that sort of energy of guiding and looking after and protecting, and doing that in a way where they don't always get to be liked, you know? And I think that's kind of the thing here. There's some constraints being put on Mystic. They can't go to the very edge, even though they want to. We also do have a stag engraved in the stone in the background there, which I just love. But really, I wanted the element of, yeah, Mystic, this is dangerous to be here, and you're still young, and you don't know yet. And so this Emperor is here to kind of keep you safe and be that tough sort of stalwart there against danger. I'm really, really proud of this Hierophant. This Hierophant is something that means a lot to me personally because I am so used to seeing the Hierophant represented as a figure, as a person, and often the Hierophant shows up as an energy. And here what we see is that Mystic has stumbled onto a cave. And in that cave, there's some drawings, including some figures that look like a person riding a horse pulling a cart. It's kind of subtle. It's there in the drawings, but we also see the crossed keys of the Hierophant there on the wall of the cavern as well, or the cave as well. And the idea here is that Mystic has encountered information and will then interpret it. And this is what's really interesting, is that we often engage with Hierophant energy in this way. We encounter something, some information, somebody who has wisdom to share, or maybe even it's red tape, or it's some sort of societal structure. But then we interpret it, and how we take on that information will completely alter our journey one way or the other. It's no different than something like a religious text, like a Bible, being interpreted by humans. There's that element of this is what the text says, and then this is how we're interpreting it. And those are two very different things. Mystic is going to see this and think that this is who they are, that they're a horse. And that's kind of the point, is that that information has been to some degree misinterpreted. We don't have to read the Hierophant this way when this card comes up in a reading, but I wanted it there for Mystic's story to see that we encounter information that came before us, wisdom, our predecessors, whatever it might be, but then we interpret that information. And I wanted to kind of empower people to remember that you can choose to take that information on at face value, or you can put it to use in a way that's more meaningful, or you can question it. And here it would have been actually really helpful for Mystic to question this information, but they don't. They kind of see this information and they're like, oh, that kind of looks like me, and there's a person writing that, I must be a horse, right? And that's kind of how they interpret this information. which is really impactful because in our next card, we have our Lover's card. And I've renamed this card the Choice. So in the choice card, Mystic comes across a crossroads on their path. And to the left, there's this sort of mysterious glowy light. It's a little bit darker. It's a little bit more unknown. There's something sort of at the end of that light, if you look closely, that is a hint about who Mystic probably really is. And then over to the right, you see this sort of farmhouse situation. And there's a figure, like a little girl, actually sitting on a fence. In over there, and Mystic's like, oh, farm, barn, person, and starts to make those connections. And of course, we know well, I'm telling you which one Mystic will choose. Mystic is going to choose the farm and the girl after that experience in the Hierophant. But Lover's card is often a representation of the path we're going to take and the fact that we're going to commit fully to that path. So it's a very much a choice card, but that element of commitment brings back sort of that possible meaning around choosing a partner, choosing somebody to be with in a romantic sense. So while I'm not illustrating the card in that romantic vibe that so many people do in their tarot decks, I wanted to really highlight the element of choice and the element of that choice is one that's going to impact you for a long time. So it's not like, what am I having for dinner, right? It's like choosing, like, am I going to go follow this career path or that one? These are the kind of choices I feel like that come up with the Lovers. And I really wanted to hone in on that meaning because I feel it's often misrepresented in tarot. And I could talk about this a lot, and I have in the previous road so far. So I'm going to move on. But this is the choice that Mystic faces in the choice card or the Lovers card. Here we have the Chariot. What I wanted to really show here is the determination and the drive that's required to make progress, right? And here we have Mystic and their new rider friend. They've obviously gotten to know one another, and they're now working to improve their skills as rider and horse. So they're working on jumping hay bales. And so I wanted to show this sort of practice and dedication and focus on an end result that I feel like that really represents the idea that we're going to set a goal or we're going to set a plan and we're going to do the actions that are going to take us to that sort of towards that goal. And so it's not just staying on course, it's also choosing again and again. Here's that choice word again, but choosing again and again to continue to do the work, to continue to put one foot in front of the other and make that forward momentum, right? And here we see that with the rider and Mystic doing this practice with the hay bales to jump. And this is a skill that will later serve Mystic, but it's important that just in general, we see that there's this really determined sort of work forward, drive forward kind of vibe. And that's what I wanted to show here. I also really wanted a bright, high sun, and I wanted to bring in some of that sort of internal solar plexus-y energy that I really feel in this card. So I hope that was accomplished here, but I really love this image. This is one of my favorite cards in the deck. I love this so much, and Francesca executed what I described so well here, because I literally said to Francesca, I want Mystic to be like looking, I want it to kind of look kind of scary, a little bit dark. Mystic rears up, is really startled by this lightning storm that's happening, and I wanted the lemniscate, the figure 8, to be showing above Mystic's head. And the idea here, so the writer is trying to help and calm Mystic, but this is really about Mystic learning to sort of find that space of inner fortitude within them to recognize that they're safe even in the midst of the storm. And that's kind of the energy I wanted to show, is that even when things are scary and there's a lot going on, that we can find that inner strength, we can calm ourselves, we can come to a place of peace. That's what I wanted to show in the strength card. And I just think it's really, really well done here. And I love all the shadowiness and the darkness. To me, a lot of times the strength card is bringing up something that feels really volatile and wild within us, sometimes without us, but often within. And so we're trying to harmonize that stuff. And here there's all this fear and like angst and like unknown and scary energy with the storm. And Mystic has to learn how to move through that and is in the process of working that out right now. But their friend is still there with them to help them, which I think is great. You'll see that there is some foreshadowing here in this card as we get a little further on. I love this Hermit card so much. It is so cozy. I wanted this interior space. I wanted the lantern. And I love the gray blanket. That's that nod back to the gray robe that the Hermit in the RWS carries. You'll also notice there's a staff leaning against the back wall, which is also a nod to the staff that the Hermit carries in the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot. Some couple things that I wanted to have in here just to sort of change things up a little bit. I wanted to show that Mystic was sort of doing this internal introspective work, was sort of in this quiet contemplative space. And also I wanted to show that they weren't entirely alone, but they were doing their own work. And so I have this, I had Francesca put this cat in the lower right-hand corner here, curled up in the hay, so that we could see that they're these figures are both doing sort of their own solitary thing, but oftentimes we're doing hermit work when we're not actually alone. Often we do have companionship in some way, or we are sharing that journey in some way, but the work is still from within. I wanted to show that. Also, if you look in the window, that same star that shone over Mystic in the Magician card, illuminating Mystic's potential, is present again here. And that's very intentional. We wanted that same star to kind of peek through and just kind of remind us that Mystic has this potential and is now in the process of beginning to discover it. And this is just the start of that process. This is the Wheel of Fortune. I love this card so much. I what I like to show in the Wheel of Fortune is the idea that things are changing and it's not always comfortable. Could be good, could be not good, but we want to see that life is shifting. In this case, we have the school bus in the back, and the rider is in a school uniform with their backpack, with, of course, our Rider-Waite Smith tarot wheel on it. And the rider is giving Mystic a sweet apple treat, right? And so the idea is that Mystic's getting something that's a boon, that's a fortune, that's a treat. So something positive is happening. But at the same time, Mystic's rider's about to go off to school. So their lifestyle is going to be completely changing from what it's been. And so we see this idea that like Mystic has to adjust and get comfortable with the idea of this change. And that is a big way that I engage with the Wheel of Fortune card, is comfort with change, dealing with change, facing change. And I wanted to sort of highlight this in a way that felt kind of neutral. Mystic's rider going off to school isn't inherently negative. It's also not inherently positive, but there's still that bit of sweetness in it with the apple. So that's kind of what I wanted to illustrate here. And I really love the way that we see this sort of changing journey. We also, if you look closely, can see that the rider has been changing throughout this process as well. And if you look at the previous cards, and we can do that real quick, let's just take a look at what the rider is here. And you can't see on this image because it's so small. But in the background, the rider is just like a little girl, like in like little overalls. It's really cute. You can zoom in, get your magnifying glass if you once you have your actual card on in front of you. But then the Mystic's rider is starting to grow up a little bit. We can kind of see a little bit of tomboyish energy coming in, which is interesting. We're starting to see it even more here. The hair is getting a little shorter. I'm trying to show that Mystic's rider is also trying to figure out who they are and going on their own journey while Mystic's going on theirs. And it's just this, I want to show this idea that we don't always know who we are, that learning who we are is a work in progress. So we see that here, even in the school uniform, the sleeves are rolled up, the hair's even shorter. You know, you get the idea. Things are changing. Here, I love this so much. So this is our justice card. For me, the primary keyword for justice is consequence. And consequences with justice are about, to me, it's like you make a choice, you take an action, that action is going to have some kind of result. So consequence isn't always negative. Sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's neutral, and it's not a biased thing, right? It's like if you throw something hard at something breakable and you break it, that's the consequence. Like it's just action reaction. If you do something nice for somebody who's having a rough day and they smile, that's also a consequence of that choice, right? It's a positive consequence. So in this card, I wanted to show what happened when Mystic got a little mischievous and decided to go rolling in the mud. I mean, Mystic had a great time, but now Mystic has to get washed off. And the rider is not entirely thrilled that they have to wash them off. So you get a little sass in the rider's posture here. I love that we have the scales on the little bucket of sudsy water that is going to be used to clean Mystic up. But it's a pretty playful image. And I wanted to show that sometimes it's not always like this big, bad, scary thing. And nobody's necessarily being judged in this circumstance. It's just like, you got dirty, I have to clean you. That's what's going to happen now. You chose to roll in the mud. Now we got to deal with it, you know? And that's kind of what I feel like the justice card is really all about. So I think this is a super fun card. This is one I love the layers in this image, and I feel like I could talk about it for days, but let me see if I can just break it down as succinctly as possible. So this is our Hanged One card, and I wanted an actual creature in the Hanged One position. So we have our little possum here who's kind of watching what's going on, as a nod back to that reversed posture that we see in a traditional Hanged One card. But what we're really seeing here is that Mystic's rider has to study. It's a beautiful day outside, and Mystic is looking out the window like, all I want to do is go outside and like jump some hay bales or do some writing with my rider. Like I want to be doing that. But the rider has to learn and has to study. So there's a period of enforced like waiting, of where patience is absolutely required. This is what's happening. And I just realized I should check my mic and make sure we're still working. We're working. Okay, good. Phew. I was scared for a second. Okay. Meanwhile, if you look really closely, and this is another card where it'll be really fun to get out your magnifying glass or just look at it close up. It's hard to show on the screen, and I don't know what size screen you're looking on, But Mystic's writer's pile of books, the book that's open actually says myth and has a sketch of a unicorn right on it. So Mystic's writer is studying unicorns and like mythologies as we speak, mythical creatures, whatever it is they're studying. So if either one of them was really like making connections and sort of figuring things out, there would be a big insight available to both of them potentially, right? But they're both kind of missing it. And the idea is that they could find it. I want you to see the possibility to have that greater insight from this period of enforced sort of waiting, of suspension, of having to hold on, before maybe you do the thing you want to do. There's still learning there. And I wanted to show that somehow visually. And that's what I came up with for Francesca to illustrate. And then also we again see the continued transformation of our writer, who has bulked up slightly and is has a little notebook sliding out of their backpack. So you can ignore all these little Easter eggy things that I've tucked in here to show the writer's journey if you'd like, but it is a part of what I wanted to show. Coming from my own life experience and figuring out who I was, this was a part of my journey in a way, and I kind of want to show that. And it's got a little bit of Peggy in my brain is also in here, which it's just a me thing, but you can see that however you want. But the writer is also figuring out who they are slowly but surely. Oh, this is such a hard card for me to talk about. So this is the death card, and oh, this just my whole heart with this card. So our writer has grown up, and they have their messenger bag sort of slung over their shoulder, which has the rose from the flag in the Rider-Waite-Smith death card on it, which I think is just really, that needed to be there. We also see a butterfly in the foreground. Mystic has a tear rolling down their cheek. And in the background, we see a truck sort of piled up with boxes because it's time for the writer to now move on. Maybe they're going to college. Maybe they're just moving out on their own, going to another city. But this relationship, as it exists between them, is ending. There's a death there. There's a process where they each need to let each other go. My heart just like, oh, in my feels. Our writer now has a heart rainbow tattoo on their shoulder. But otherwise, it's just this show of them like both sort of growing up in this process. And Mystic's not going to be alone. We have the sun rising in the distance, that reminder that there is a new day dawning. And we also have somebody holding on to Mystic's reins. So they're not going to be alone. But this journey that they've been on with their rider is now ending. So there's a loss to contend with. That's our death card. In Temperance, we still have Mystic at the farm, and there's a sort of time for reflection and I think calming for Mystic. And that's kind of what I wanted to show here. It feels to me almost like in this case and in this storyline, Temperance comes in to offer solace after grieving, which I think is what happens when we've had a death card experience. We move through and we try to find the balance in our life again. So much like the Rider-Waite-Smith image here, we have 1 foot on land and 1 foot on water for Mystic here. And then I also wanted to show that process of going from intensity to calmness, that sort of finding that balancing point with the flow of the water. So we have this sort of really quite fast moving water or brook or river here, and then it sort of tumbles over the stones, and the stones actually help to modify that flow, to moderate it, to create moderation, to temper the flow, if you will. I'm a nerd, I know, I'm sorry. And then because this is a symbol that I think is really helpful for me when engaging with the energy of temperance, I've had Francesca put a yin yang symbol, so that black and white Taoist symbol on the stone. One of the stones that you can see in that little pile of stones has that little symbol engraved on it. So I wanted that there. Another little Easter egg in this is that Mystic is becoming more aware of themselves and sort of slowly starting to awaken. And so if you look in the reflection of the water, you can actually see Mystic's horn reflected there. It's just a little blurry on purpose, but Mystic's eyes are closed, so they don't see it yet. But again, there's these hints that like this awakening process is happening. And so it gives us something as readers, I think, when we're working with a card like this, to think about the ways in which finding that middle ground sort of creates the space where we can start to access deeper truth about ourselves and about others. I could do this all day long. I hope you're comfy. Oh, this is the devil card. I went back and forth a few times actually, and my original vision for this card featured somebody that was sort of keeping Mystic captive, and I realized that's not the point for me with the devil card. For me, the point with the devil card has always been that we keep ourselves sort of captive. We sort of have built up habits or behaviors that keep us in a loop that's not serving us in some way, and I wanted to illustrate that visually. And if you've ever heard me talk about yoga stuff in the past, I'm really big on the concept of samskaras. And in yoga, samskaras, or in the theologies that I learned when I was teaching yoga more specifically, a samskara is sort of a pattern. It's a repeated sort of groove that you sort of build in yourself or in your brain. A samskara is sort of, it's a groove. And the way I've always described this to my yoga students, and like way back when I first learned about this concept, the way that I would describe it is it's as if you've walked the same path over and over again and you sort of built a groove, right? And then imagine that there was like, you put something in that groove, like a ball, like, you know, those puzzle games with the ball in the groove, and you put the ball in the groove. That's what a habit is like, right? It just keeps rolling around in the same groove over and over again. And if you want to break that habit, you have to you're trying to get the ball out of the groove, but it keeps rolling back into the groove because it's sort of the easiest. It's where the divot is. It's where the repetition is. It's embedded, right? And so if you want the ball to not roll back into the old groove, you have to build a new groove. And that's hard to do. That's what keeps us stuck. And I wanted to show that stuckness here in the devil card, because that's what it really represents to me, is these bad habits or these patterns or these cycles we get ourselves caught up in. We're trapped, but we don't have to be. And I wanted to show that here. So here Mystic has their bridle. They're very loosely attached to the center post. You can see that the loop that holds them there is not even really all the way around. Like they could just like literally shake their head and be free. And you can also see the well-worn path where Mystic has been walking this same loop, because obviously their rider isn't there anymore and they're not getting the same kind of opportunity to explore and exercise and all this kind of stuff. They're just doing the same thing over and over again. And they've kind of let themselves be held here despite the fact that their rider has moved on. It's time for them to move on. And so we see in the background, the fence has broken down. All Mystic has to do is shake their head. They've done all the hay bale jumping in the past, so they know how to jump a fence anyway, and they can go out to that path and head into the woods and find their way. But this shows that struggle of like not even realizing they can free themselves, which I really wanted to show in the devil card. My favorite tower card of all time, hands down. Francesca nailed this image for me, and I'm so excited. So the barn has caught fire. And this is sort of that big wake-up call. Like Mystic didn't free themselves until they were sort of forced to free themselves. But the beautiful and powerful thing about this card to me is that the barn is on fire. Mystic has gotten out and has gotten away from that fenced area. And we see other animals in the background that are kind of freaking out. And Mystic is calm and resolute and steady as they walk into the woods, into that path that we saw in the devil card. And in the background, you see the lightning. And this is the foreshadowing that we put in the strength card. Mystic doing the work in the strength card is what gave them the power and the ability to walk away from this burning barn and go find a new path for themselves with less of that really big fear. Like, it's not that it's not still hard for them right now, but strength gave them the strength card experience, learning how to withstand the storm within, gave them the strength and courage they needed to be able to walk away from this while everybody else was kind of panicking. And that's what I wanted to show here, is that the work we do sets us up to be able to withstand these tower events, that we can do it. We've built the skills. And the star. I love this. Oh man, I'm gonna cry talking about this deck. I can't. Here Mystic has, in their exploration, like getting back into the forest, they look up and they see for the first time, oh, I'm gonna cry. They see for the first time that star in the sky, that one that shone down on them in the Magician and peeked in on them as they were in the Hermit card. And they finally see it. And they know what direction they need to go now. That star gives them hope, but it also gives them a direction to follow. And in the water, we very clearly, in the stillness of the water, see a clear image of Mystic with their horn. And Mystic still hasn't quite seen that yet, but again, we see this sort of progression of the horn from just being an idea in the Magician card to being sort of, oh, it's kind of waking up in the Temperance card. And now in the star, it's like, it's right there. It's so close. And this is just, to me, about Mystic finding their footing, finding their path, finding that hope again, and realizing that there's something more out there for them. This was a lot of the art, and this is something I'll talk about in more detail in a future video, I think, but the process of creating this is like, I write the description, I describe exactly what I want on the card, and Francesca will illustrate it, and then, well, she'll send me a sketch, and then we'll maybe tweak it there, then she'll illustrate it, then I'll ask for any changes I want again. And so some of these cards have seen 2 or 3 revisions by the time I share it with you. This card, this is like a one take wonder. Like, this was the first time she gave me this completed artwork. It was perfection. And that's meaningful to me, and really, what's the word? Affirming, or like synchronistic, because the star is one of the cards that I am most attached to in the tarot deck. It's one that I really relate to. It is also a birth card of mine. So yeah, anyways, it was just really cool that it was just so perfect from jump. Francesca is very skilled and talented, and I'm loving working with her. And this is just, oh, amazing. The moon. So some fun things are happening here, some of which I can't talk about till we get into the minor arcana, but I will say there these this fox and this wolf that you see in the card you will see again. Um, it's just an important part of the continuation of the story. For me, the moon, I want to show that things are not quite all as they seem. There's two sort of concepts that are really important to me in the moon card. The first being the sort of wild versus domesticated, or the wild versus the calm kind of energy that we often see when we look at the dog and the wolf both howling at the moon. Here we have a fox and a wolf both howling at the moon, and it gives me that same vibe, that sort of wildness, that sort of surrealism of moonlight. And then the other thing I really lean into when I pull the moon card and read it is the idea that the path is a little bit unclear and it's a little scary. There's a little element of sort of facing your fears that I like to show here, of sort of digging into the subconscious and sort of letting some of that stuff bubble up, your doubts about yourself, your fear, like where you're going, like not necessarily fully knowing yourself, but knowing you're starting to uncover things about yourself. And these are the things we often see represented by, say, the crawfish or the water in the moon card. But here what I wanted to show are these branches sort of looking kind of reachy like fingers, and I wanted to show the sort of discomfort of the moon card here, and I think that it came out really lovely. Oh, here's some more foreshadowing. I love foreshadowing. Can you tell I am like a total nerd for storytelling with tarot? Like, oh my God. So several things here are important to me personally that I wanted to see in the card. First of all, Mystic is not alone. Now, in Marseille decks, you would often see two figures in the Sun card, not just one. And actually, if you think about that, in the Rider-Waite-Smith, you do as well. There's both a baby and a horse. If you think of both of those as figures, there are two figures even in the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot. But I wanted to show Mystic being able to sort of let their hair down, so to speak, and be fully themselves, be fully authentic, to sort of feel like they could like really disrobe. Because one of the things that I think is really interesting about the naked baby on a horse situation that happens in most modern Rider-Waite-Smith clone decks is this idea that the baby is, or the child is naked and is perfectly safe. There's this idea that there's a safety and a security in disrobing and being completely vulnerable and authentic and letting somebody else see you like that and having it be okay, having it be safe. So we have sort of this containment of this beautiful open field, and the disrobing is symbolized by Mystic has finally gotten that bridle off, and potentially with the help of this unicorn friend they've met in this meadow. And this is a character that Mystic will meet again. So wait until we get to the minors. I'm so excited. But anyways, wait till we get to the minors. And so this is the first time Mystic's met another unicorn. And so it's this whole like big reveal for Mystic where they're like, oh, there's somebody that's kind of like me, but like I don't look exactly like that. Like, what does that mean? And so there's this awakening and this authenticity that's being tapped into, and it's just it makes me so happy. Okay, let's move on. I literally cried when I saw the sketch for this card, and seeing it come to life. It's everything to me. So Mystic has finally found their way back to the spot that was sort of illustrated in one of the paths in that lovers or choice card. And a portal is open in the forest, and through that portal we can see that it's night, but through that portal it's day. So this is literally a portal to a magical realm. Mystic is stepping through the portal, being welcomed by another unicorn, and so this is a really momentous moment. And as Mystic steps through, their horn is in place on their head. So the horn sort of becomes visible as Mystic steps into this realm, which is where they've been meant to be this whole time. So there's this really momentous moment of when Mystic finally gets their horn, and it's a big, big deal, and I'm really excited about it. So this is the Judgment. I didn't even tell you what card we're in. This is the Judgment card. This is the whole point to me of the Judgment card. There is an invitation in the Judgment card to sort of level up your life. Mystic sees what's on the other edge of the portal, and Mystic could have turned around and walked the other way and said, nope, I want to keep things as they are. I don't want to change. I don't want to go to this new thing. I don't want to leave behind the world that I've always known. And that's the invitation. That's the call of the Judgment card, is that it's time to step away from the old and into the new in a conscious way. And doing that will improve your life in some way. You will improve your personal growth. You'll develop, you'll enhance your life. You'll transform in some way. It's an evolution, right? And this is Mystic's evolution, and it's an invitation, and Mystic decides to step through the portal. So this is where we see Judgment in action, right? This idea that it's often, let me back up. It's often illustrated like people coming out of tombs, right? To like sort of being an angel's calling them up to heaven kind of deal. But for me, that's a metaphor for leveling up your life, for actually getting to a place where you can step into the fullest version of yourself. Like you're finally ready. And sometimes that's like the final work of shedding the past you, the stuff that holds you back, and really stepping into your potential in full for the first time. And that's what Mystic's doing here. And I just think it's incredible. And just seeing Mystic, we've illustrated these cards in order. And I did that because I wanted to share this journey with all of you. I wanted to go on this journey with Mystic. I wanted to have that experience and share that experience. And so when we got to this point and Mystic finally got their horn, there's a beautiful bluebird outside. When Mystic got to this point and got their horn, I was like, beside myself. I was like sobbing. It was a whole mess, but it was really good. And I'm so proud of Mystic that they got here, even though I knew it was coming. It's just, you know. And here we have the world. That portal is closing behind Mystic. So this journey that they've been on is coming to an end. It's come to an end. And this is that moment of completion where not only they find themselves fully in this new world that they stepped into in the judgment card, but their magic, that star, in a similar shape to the star that showed their potential all along, lights up above their horn as their magic awakens. So their magic has awakened. And there's a butterfly that looks very similar to the death card butterfly, which is there intentionally as a reminder that the promise that the butterfly and that sunrise were promising Mystic when their rider was leaving, and it seemed like it was a really low moment for Mystic. It's come full circle, and it's like, this is where you were meant to go all along. Like, this is where you were supposed to be. You've arrived, you've gotten here. And it's such a powerful moment for Mystic to finally feel that magic within and to recognize that this is where they're supposed to be. And at the same time as this portal closes, they find themselves in an entirely new land. And so now they've got a whole new world to discover, a whole new journey to go on, many journeys to go on. And we're going to see those journeys show up in each of the minor arcana suits. But that is the premise of the world, right? One journey ends and a new begins. It's the moment of completion, but it also puts us back in the position of being the fool again. And that's Mystic as they find themselves in this whole new world. It's very similar to the fool energy where they're sort of like, they're here, they exist, and now they need to figure out who they are. Well, now they're here in a new world. Now they have magic and they need to figure out what that's going to look like. So we see that sort of beautiful full circle sort of cyclical process of fool to world back to fool again. And that's what I wanted to show here. Okay, let me close. So that's it. That's the world. That is the entire major arcana. I'm really proud of this major arcana. And I've already revealed in the newsletter the first 3 cards from the fire suit, which is the first suit we're going to go through. So Mystic is going to journey through the realm of fire, then the realm of water, then the realm of air, and finally the realm of earth. So that is the order of Mystic's journey. But it's also really important to me that each card shows the meaning of that card in as effective a way as I can think of for this context, for this journey, for Mystic as our main character. And I'm just so stoked about this, y'all. So if you're curious about other details, things like when is this deck going to launch, I don't know yet because I don't want to kick that off until all the artwork is complete and the guidebook is written. So we've got quite a ways to go still as far as the work to be done. But I want to keep you in the loop. As always, if you want to stay up to date with all of the art reveals as they roll out, the best and quickest way to get, or the way to be first in line, I guess you could say, is to join the newsletter. So you can do that at unicornsjourneytarot.com. That is where all of the updates live as like they can be revealed. So that's what I'm doing there. I reveal about 2 to 3 cards every couple of weeks. So you do get further along updates there. I also have been doing art reveals on Instagram at my Instagram account, which is at Supportive Tarot. And those are behind the newsletter and will probably end up further behind the newsletter as we go along because the newsletter tends to be quicker. I try to put out a couple of newsletters a month. So that's like maybe 2 a month. So it's not a lot of emails. If you're worried about that, it's really not a lot. So that's the pace for that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can tell you about things and where we're at. I'm still debating about cardstock. I want this to be a really sturdy, shuffleable deck. In my head, I think right now my dream cardstock is like linen 330 GSM, like nice and flexible, good riffle, sturdy. That's what I'm hoping for, I think, but it'll depend. I'm going to be pricing some different things out. And I think also it'd be lovely in like a 330 or 350 smooth matte. I have so many ideas about cardstock, but I'll need to get samples in from different printers and do all of that stuff. So I've got a lot of work ahead of me, but we are going to get there and it's going to be amazing. And I just wanted to say thank you all so, so much for all your support and for coming with me on this journey, because this is an experience that I can never duplicate. Like, it's just so special. And I'm so grateful to be here and to be able to be doing it. So thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed this latest update. I'm going to keep these Road So Far updates coming. I'll probably do the next one once I have another full suit to reveal to you. But I hope you enjoyed the journey, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, may your magic always shine from the inside out. Bye.